Hi guys, I have another Copic coloring and card tutorial for you today. Today I'm coloring Fleta the Unicorn by Make It Crafty. And I thought I kind of remind you there is a new challenge over at Make It Crafty, which is hair. And this image is full of hair, so she can also be used as the entry for that color creation. And usually when you make creations for the Make It Crafty challenge, it's a color challenge, so you don't have to put a card together, even though if you want to, you're very welcome to do that, but it is the coloring that it's all about. I'm a little bit sorry that there will be a little bit fussiness on some of the coloring, because again I forgot to see that my autofocus was on, so it comes in and out, but I'm trying to remember to actually remove the autofocus when I'm coloring. What is happening is that it starts focusing on the pen instead of the drawing, and therefore the drawing gets out of the focus. But it doesn't happen all the time. This is quite a simple coloring job. It's a lot of time. It took a lot of time doing it, but it's sort of simple in the way that I only use 2 color family, or 3 counting the eye, so I'm just using the tone grays, using some yellow reds to get that kind of peachy orange that I'm so completely crazy about at the moment, and then I'm going to use some earth tones for her very brown eye that she's getting. But yeah, it's just I'm doing my usual coloring, I start out by layering with my lightest colors where all the dark part is. When I was younger, I always started kind of mapping out with the lightest color where my lights would be. But since then, I've started to kind of map out the darks instead, and then just layering and layering and layering. I love layering color. You get such a awesome effect with the Copics being a little bit transparent in the coloring. Every time you put a new layer on, you get a new depth, but it's important, if you want to layer a lot, you need a paper that actually can handle layering. Some paper handle layering better than others. Paper that is very, very easy to blend on usually can't handle as much layers as possible as usual. This is what I have seen, what I've learned while I have been coloring. So I use Make It Color, which is a blended paper that Make It Crafty does, and I do that for all my coloring because I really, really like this paper, and it really lends itself to layering, a lot of layering. It handles a lot of color, and I never really have a problem with bleeding outside the lines. There will be bleeding on the back side of the paper because the ink goes through it, but I have found that it doesn't bleed as much on the back side with this paper as it does with some other papers, and also I don't bleed out of the lines. One of the colors that is very hard to color with is red, because red lends itself to blending or to bleeding, but I really never had that much of a problem with bleeding on this paper, so I really recommend it. I have a link down below to the store that sells it. I think at the speaking moment, I think there's only one store. It's a British store that sells the Make It color blending paper, but it's worth it. I promise you it's worth it. But if you don't have the possibility to buy those kind of paper, try the expressed paper maybe. I started with Nina. Nina is easy to blend on, but it does bleed a little bit, and when you start layering, it does start bleeding. The expressed, what I have felt, is something between the Make It Crafty and the Nina. So those 3 that I have used. There's a lot of other different papers out there, and I would recommend kind of joining a Facebook group or something that is about coloring. For example, Passionate Paper Creations, and Friends is one of those groups that is all about coloring, and you can probably get information there about what kind of papers different people are using. But yeah, the coloring is coming to an end. I have chosen not to add a last layer with the darkest color on her mane, because it was a very dark orange and that would give it more contrast than I wanted. And here I am cutting. First of all, I'm actually speeding this up 5 times. It took me quite some time to cut this image out because it has a lot of curls, and I'm cutting very slow to get a good cut. And also a little tip, if you're having a hard time cutting fully straight, do as I do and add a little white border, because if you look closely on my cards you will see that this white border isn't even everywhere, but it's actually quite forgiving. So if you keep it sort of the same depth or width of that little white border, people won't notice that it isn't perfectly cut out. That is one of the reasons why I use the white border. The other reason is that it actually helps me cutting out, because I don't have to cut all these teeny tiny details. These images is very hard to cut out these teeny details, because paper isn't really made to be cut in such kind of tight things. Here I'm using my little craft knife, and as you see I have a little bandage on my finger. I accidentally stabbed myself with that, doing something with the craft knife that I wasn't supposed to do, so yeah. And now we're starting to make the card. I'm doing an A2 standard card base because it fitted the image, and I'm cutting the mat down to 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, and then I'm cutting some marshmallow basil for the A2 card base. I'm using the Bohemian bamboo papers from Prima for this card, and I am going to add a sliver of darker pattern paper on the bottom to kind of have a place to ground my little image. I'm cutting that down to 1 3/8 by 5 1/4, and then I'm adding a mat to that, which is 1 1/2 by 5 1/4. I am scoring my half sheet of basil at the A2 marker, which is 4 1/4, to make my card base. Then I'm just layering all of my images together. I'm using my Crafter Companion tape runner because I really like them, and they're pretty affordable, and I have a whole drawer full of them. Then I'm layering that down, and that is sort of the card base. Card front is done. I'm gonna add her to that. Then I'm doing a custom little sentiment. I'm using the Jelly Bean Soup alpha beans to make my own sentiment. It was supposed to say hello friend, but when I got to hello I realized that I didn't have any O's left on that sheet, and I don't have another in the same color, so I changed it to hi friend instead. I choose to use these because I didn't know where I would put a sentiment banner, and these kind of alphabet stickers actually make it pretty easy to make they stand out on your card creation. So if I had stamped up there, it might not have stood out the way I wanted. So I really like using those. And then I'm using some foam tape and adding Fleta the unicorn to my card, and that is the card for today. I hope you liked it. If you do, please thumbs it up. It means a lot to me. If you have any questions, just comment down below. And if you want to see more videos like this, just hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye!